Anyways, here in this video I'll be remaking one of my most popular paintings, but in digital form. It was my first video to ever go viral on YouTube, and it got so much support from so many people. It's still one of my most viewed videos to this day, even if it's over 3 years old now. I think it might be 4 years old. Anyways, the main difference that you'll be noticing in this remake right away is that the illustration is being made in digital form instead of traditionally. The original painting was made with watercolors, but I don't use those as often anymore and have really been getting into digital art in the last few years. So I'll be making it using Clip Studio Paint, who is also kindly sponsoring this video once again. So Clip Studio is a drawing software that I personally use and have been using for years now whenever I want to draw digitally on my computer or even on my iPad sometimes, as they also have apps for iOS and Android. I've become more familiarized with digital mediums lately, and I feel that it would also add to the remake theme of this video if I did it as differently as possible, but still maintaining the original vibes of the painting. So in the sketch part, I decided to keep the overall composition, but add a bit more attitude to his pose, as well as making it a bit more natural now that I know a bit more about anatomy and gestures. Also, I'll say it right now, the brush I'll be using for basically 90 to 95% of this entire painting process will be the default gouache brush. So it's easier if you want to try something like this on your own devices later. And also because I really like it. It has this painterly feel that I want to bring into this illustration to kind of make up for the lack of organic traditional elements that the original painting had. Although I do want to try out a more textured brush for painting in future works to really mimic the analog feel that traditional painting has. I also like that the gouache brush acts like fresh paint if you're working on the same layer. So for example, if I take a blue color and go over it with a gouache brush and a red color, they will mix up like traditional paints and create a purplish blur, which also depends on the pressure you're using on the brush. So if you're being light-handed, the blur will be much more noticeable because it's as if you're just dragging the brush on the canvas, and that blends colors more. And if you're being heavy-handed, so with more pressure, there will be almost no blur at all because it's as if you're forcing the brush onto the canvas, so there will be much more paint coming out. I really liked working with that. So my process for paintings like these is still very much of a mess. I sketch something, clean it up a bit, block the base colors and shadows using the multiply layer, play around with lighting, using the overlay and add effects, and then I go on to rendering bit by bit until I consider it finished or until I feel like it's time to move on to the next piece. Learning how to render paintings has been a great experience and also a teaching one, because it made me realize how much I value specific parts of my creative process. So for example, I realized that painting itself isn't my favorite part and that I tend to rush it because it's the part I have the least fun in. But when sketching, I love coming up with solutions to make the sketch look interesting and cohesive, and I don't mind spending a lot of time on it. So I learned something new about myself. I like the parts of drawing that involve lines. I don't want to fall into the trap of thinking I have to draw a certain way to be taken seriously, so in this case, like thinking that I have to always make rendered paintings. I want to have fun with the lines that I like so much. But I really wanted Pretty Boy to have a gorgeous sculpted face, so I had fun imagining what he'd look like in a more 3D way, and rendering is the way I consider to be more effective in conveying that. I also tried making his eyes more seductive and his hair more defined. I'm actually quite proud of the way his hair came out in the painting. You'll see it in the end. It looks very easy to understand where the lights and shadows are coming from. I also really wanted to keep his androgyny, but also make him have clear masculine facial features. It bothered me in the original Pretty Boy video that so many people thought he was a woman due to my inability to draw proper male faces, so I wanted to fix that since I'm more skilled now. There are things I wish I had kept from the original painting though, like the abstractness of his jacket and background. I found that very hard to mimic digitally, and I didn't know how to translate it into the language I was using in this new piece. However, I remember making the jacket in that abstract way because I didn't know how to draw a jacket in that position with all the folds and everything, so I challenged myself to specify more of what was going on in this remake and really try this time. The one thing I've learned though is just use references, okay? I didn't use one here, and relying only on my mental library was quite hard. So if I had taken a picture of a jacket in that position, it would have made my whole process a lot easier and faster, and this video wouldn't be 26 minutes long. But that's also okay. Like, I'm still learning and navigating through different finishes, techniques, and solutions. I like thinking of every painting as a learning opportunity, and this one taught me a lot. And really, you only truly learn once you make yourself go through the process of actually doing things. So I only knew how to make this new Pretty Boy because after my original one, I painted so many other things that I can now apply my knowledge in this remake. In a way, this Pretty Boy 2.0 was a way for me to prove to myself that I am now more capable of doing what I wanted to do back then. So even if this doesn't look like my latest personal works, it shows me that I have learned things in a more concrete way. I don't make many rendered pieces though, so it makes a lot of sense that I have trouble whenever I decide to try it out. But if you ask me which one I prefer, I couldn't give you an answer. Both Pretty Boys represent a point in my journey that can't exist without one another. They both have special features and decisions that only the me from that time period could have made, and that makes them special. I am proud of them both, and excited to make many more Pretty Boys in the future. I remember looking at drawings like this one I'm making and thinking, I wish I could draw male faces like these, and to be able to do that now and look at his face and be proud of it, it's a really special feeling. When making the OG Pretty Boy, I wanted his face to be like this one I'm making now, so seductive, androgynous male who wears makeup and grabs everyone's attention. I think that vibe is stronger here, and that makes me happy. Knowing more about art makes things easier, but also makes them much harder, because having a clear base of what you know looks good makes you realize how what you're making isn't that, or realizing how far you are of becoming, technically good. I felt that distance here way more than in the first version of Pretty Boy, because not knowing things made creating easier since I didn't have to worry about what I didn't know was a problem. And I think that only gets more intense as you evolve. You know what they say, ignorance is bliss. But if you really want to get better at art, you just have to go through that. There's no other way. Speaking about getting better at art, there is one extra thing I'd like to mention, and that is that I am making an online course with Class 101. It is still in the pre-sale period, so the prices are discounted. It will be very beginner oriented, but not much about how to draw. So instead I'll be talking more about finding your style and having a genuine mindset on what you want your art to say. But there will be some drawing advice too, of course. Basically, everything I wish I could say to a beginner will be in the course. And I'll be teaching it using Clip Studio too. There is more information about it in the link in the description of this video, so if that interests you, check it out. Anywho, this voiceover is pretty much done here. I tried my best to cut down the video footage as much as I could, but it still ended up this long, so I hope you like long videos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was interesting or helpful to you in any way, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye! Bye!